Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Yeah. Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om. Namaskaram, Namaskaram.
Swamiji.
Yes.
Swamiji, Tulika is here.
Tulika.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Very good, very good.
Kushal will be coming next month, Swamiji.
Kushal will be coming next month, very good.
Yes, Kushal.
Okay.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Where are we now?
Last chapter, Swamiji.
Last but one chapter.
Wonderful.
Yesterday we covered Pundalikas. The next page says something about Damaji, you know. Mangal Veda. Once in a way to read, not to read, to absorb and assimilate the episodes from Bhaktottama's life, where how the Lord tested and how the Lord came to their rescue. When we keep on going through it intently, the palpable, tangible gain is that our faith in God becomes more and more firm. He will not leave us aside. His protecting hand is always will be there. The only thing is when it is selfless. Because when it is selfish, we ourselves do the planning, you know. We don't give God any role. Accepting that we send a petition that you should bless me with this, bless me with that, bless me with this, bless me with that. In the other case, it is not like that. We don't ask anything when it is a selfless act. And again, when it is put under test by Him, He Himself will come forward and give us the helping hand to come out of it. Such is the one in Damaji's case. Under the Nawab of Bijapur, there was a revenue officer in charge of the Mangal Veda Taluk. His name was Damaji. He was a great bhakta of Vithoo Mahar. In those days, taxes and rent from landowners were collected by the village officers in kind, that is, in the form of rice and wheat, and stored in a godown. So the godown in Mangal Veda was full of grains collected as taxes and rent There was once a great famine in the taluka and people were starving. They came to Damaji for help. He gave whatever he had and finally distributed all the grains from the government godown to the starving people. The head clerk of Damaji was jealous of him and thought that if Damaji were to be removed from his office, he would get a chance to take his place. So he sent information to the Nawab of Bijapur that Damaji had distributed all the government grains to the people. Hearing the news, the Nawab immediately sent his men to arrest Damaji, bring him before the Nawab. When the Sepoys reached Mangal Veda, Damaji was performing kirtan. The Sepoys interrupted it and wanted Damaji to follow them. Damaji told his people that he was summoned by the Nawab to see him at once and left. Beholding his devotee in great trouble, Vithoo Mahar decided to go to the rescue of Damaji. Vithoo Mahar took the form of a pariah, appeared before the Nawab and said, "I am the servant of Damaji of Mangal Veda. He has sent with me the money to cover the full value of grains due to you as taxes and rent." The Nawab replied, "That will amount to lakhs of rupees. How are you going to pay it? Where have you got the money?" The pariah said, "I have got it here. You may take the money from this bag." So saying, he handed over to the Nawab a small bag. The Nawab emptied it and got the money, counted it. It contained the exact amount due to him by Damaji. As required, the Nawab then gave the pariah a receipt for the money. The Nawab was fascinated on seeing the strange pariah with his lustrous eyes, radiant face, attractive features. When asked to give the name, he said, "I am only a poor servant of Damaji. My name is Vitoo Mahar," and disappeared. The Nawab was simply mad after Vitoo Mahar. He ran here and there to find, but nowhere could he be found. The Nawab refused to take food and drink until he met the pariah again. 2 or 3 days passed. Now the sepoys brought Damaji before the Nawab. The Nawab was surprised on seeing Damaji. "Why have you come?" he asked. "There is no charge against you. The money due to me has been paid up by you 3 days ago. Your servant Vitoo Mahar came and paid it. I want to see your servant again. Where is he?" "Damaji, I have not paid you the money. I have no servant named Vitoo Mahar." "Nawab, how can it be? He has paid in cash all the money, the full value of the corn, and I have given him a receipt also." Damaji was astonished to hear this. He had a copy of the Bhagavad Gita in his hand. A small piece of paper was protruding from it. The Nawab asked what it was. Damaji took it out and found to his surprise it was a receipt, the one given by the Nawab to Vitoo Mahar. "Nawab, you said you did not know about Vitoo Mahar. He has handed over the receipt to you, so you surely know about him. Otherwise, how could you be in possession of the receipt I gave him?" Damaji was greatly perplexed and did not know what to say. "Nawab, I want to see Vitoo Mahar. You must show him to me." Damaji, "Oh Lord, you have saved me from one trouble and put me into another. The Nawab wants to see Vitoo. How can I show him whom I have myself not seen?" Damaji then took the Nawab to Pandharpur for darshan of Vithoba. Both of them stood in front of the deity. "Nawab, I do not want to see the stone idol. I want to see Vitoo Mahar. You should show him to me." Then Lord Vithoba revealed himself to both of them in the form of Vitoo Mahar. The pariah who handed over the money to the Nawab was standing in front of them in place of the stone image. Thus the Lord saved his devotee and gave darshan to the Nawab also. The Samadhi of Damaji and that of Nawab are side by side in Mangal Veda. So Ramdas remained in Pandharpur for 5 days, occupying a small mandir of Shankar on the banks of the holy river in the company of 2 sadhus. Ram is very kind. Ram here came to know that Mangal Veda lay only 12 miles from Pandharpur, One morning he walked this distance and reached Mangal Veda at midday. In the town, a kind merchant served him with food. It appeared as though the merchant was looking forward to Ramdas's arrival. Ram's plans are always so when man leaves everything to him without interference. Mangal Veda is a small town where, about 400 years ago, the great saint Damaji Pant flourished. The ancient and worn-out fortress in which Damaji was holding office for managing public affairs under the Badshah of Bijapur is still there. Damaji was a great devotee of Vithoba of Pandarpur. The way how he came to the relief of thousands of starving, famine-stricken fellow men by a loving and fearless act of charity, and how God, Vithoba, saved his bhakta by assuming the form of a pariah, formed the theme of a well-known story in this great saint's life. The memory of the saint is still dear and sacred to everyone of this blessed town, even to this day. On the samadhi of this saint, there is now a temple containing 3 idols, namely Vithoba, Rukma Bai, Damaji. Bhajan and puja and reading of religious books are going on in this temple throughout the day and the great part of the night. There is also a sadhu residing there. Ramdas remained in the society of the sadhu for 5 days. They were indeed, by the grace of Ram, very happy days. The sadhu was a simple and childlike man, a true shishya of Damaji. He was rearing a white cow, of which he was very fond. He called her Rukma Bai. He has written some beautiful verses in Marathi upon the Gomata. Truly, the cow represents the mother of the universe and is a grand ideal of all that is gentle, pure, self-sacrificing, and innocent. The Gomata yields milk, out of which curds, butter, and ghee are made for the use of man. And again, she is the mother of the bullocks that plough the fields for growing corn, that provide food grains for the use of man. Even her cow dung, is of great use as manure and fuel. In Kathiawar, where there are no trees and forests close by, the common fuel is only cow dung cakes. Then again, after death, various useful articles are made out of their skin and bones. O mother, thou art indeed Kamadhenu. Ramdas now started by Ram's command on foot for Bijapur, which is 40 miles from Mangal Veda. He came across on the way a number of villages, and in almost all the villages, he was welcomed by the resident sadhus of the place. In some places, the villagers prevailed upon Ramdas to stay with them for 2 or 3 days. So the journey proved, by the grace of Ram, a most delightful one. At last he reached Bijapur in the evening. He went straight to a Ram Mandir and, receiving some prasad after puja, took rest for the night in a small shed attached to the temple. Here also one very touching incident took place. We will better read because it's small, after all, the last about one chapter. Next morning, Ram prompted him to go about inquiring for any generous-hearted merchant who supplied foodstuffs to sadhus. For every town or city contains some charitable bhaktas. Ramdas had given up doing this kind of thing independently, for, in fact, foodstuffs were of no use to him since he did not cook. If food was given, he would take, otherwise not. But in this particular instance, it was all the prompting of Ram. At last, knocking about for 2 or 3 hours from one bazaar to the other, from one lane to the other, from one shop to the other, he was directed to a place where he was given some wheat flour, dal, and 1 anna for sundries. These things Ramdas tied up in a piece of cloth and was passing in the crowded streets without knowing where to go. When he was in the middle of the street, he was detained by a call from a young man who approached him from a high-storied building. Will you deign Maharaj to accept Bhiksha at my house today? He asked. If you can do so, you may come to this house at 12 o'clock. It was then about 10 o'clock. Ramdas, accepting the invitation, proceeded onwards and eventually sat down on the outer veranda of a shop which was shut. 10 minutes had not elapsed when at a short distance he saw an old man with a rosary of large rudraksha around his neck, standing in front of a house for alms in the hot sun. Now Ramdas clapped his hands, beckoned the old bhikshu to the place where he was sitting. He came. After mutual salutations, he took his seat beside Ramdas. Ramdas now handed over to him, as prompted by Ram, the bundle containing wheat flour, etc., as also the anapis. No sooner had Ramdas made this offer than he stared at Ramdas with a solemn, uncertain, vacant gaze. Then, falling at the feet of Ramdas and clasping his feet, he looked up and said, "At last God has shown himself to me. You are none else but God to whom I was praying and praying all these years." Then again he cried out, "Am I dreaming or is this a reality?" Now Ramdas was utterly bewildered and was quite unable to understand the cause of his strange behavior. "What ails you, O brother?" asked Ramdas. "The fact is, Maharaj," he replied, "from morning I have been wandering for alms. I could get till now only half an anna." Here he showed two quarter anna pieces. "At home there is an old sickly wife besides 2 children to be fed. To go home empty-handed means the starvation of these innocent children. I was praying to God in all humility, but I was almost losing hope when you, whom I look upon as God himself, called me and offered me food." Oh Ram, this is, every time there will be a dialogue, "Oh Ram, what a deplorable tale, oh Ram. How many are there in the world who are always on the verge of starvation?" This occurrence is narrated here in detail to show the acuteness of the misery of starvation that exists among the people, downtrodden, lower classes. "O rich brothers, O rich mothers, O Ram." Now, parting from the old friend, Ramdas came to the house of the merchant friend who had invited him. Here, both the merchant and his wife treated poor Ramdas most kindly. They pressed him to remain at their house for 2 days. During this time, he visited the vast and imposing pile, Jama Masjid, climbed the turret, and ascended the gallery of that gigantic structure, Golkumata. The masterly architecture of this building is indeed wonderful. The hollow dome of the building reverberates the slightest sound inside 7 times. The sound is also magnified. A man standing near this huge structure appears like an ant in comparison. Ram showed Ramdas all those marvelous things. So 2-3 things in this particular chapter. One is about Vithoba. One is about Damaji. Yesterday, as we said, though the chosen deity of Papa is the whole universe, he had no particular chosen deity. Particular chosen deity, worship of particular chosen deity is also okay. And that is why he brings Vithoo Bai in the picture. Plenty of instances, bhaktas, He is still a source of perennial inspiration. Even though centuries have passed by. So that he wants us to know. Never in our mind, because we are concentrating on the Nirguna Tattva, there is every likelihood the mind may form some sort of concept about the Saguna aspect. So Saguna aspect also has to be equally recognized. And then the next one was about that how God arranges to think, to talk, to act. in a particular way, not in the usual way. So in our case, we may hold on to our principle, not asking for footsteps. But in his case, when the prompting came, he gave in. No? There must be some purpose. He did not bother. But the purpose was there will be somebody there. No? So Ram put him on test. And the old man, when he said you are God himself, one more definition. When you are compassionate, you play the part of God, Papa says. Just now we were telling, in the 12th chapter, he says, Adveshta Sarvabhudanam Maitra Karuna Evaja. Karuna means compassion. No? So when he called him and offered, not that he waited for the old man to come. He called him and offered because he knew it is for this purpose Ram prompted him to bring the stuff. And how the other person addressed him. Then Papa brings it out to draw the attention of the readers or bhaktas that there is a segment. On those days, poverty was too much. Not only on those days. Probably now, according to the statistics, below the poverty line may be very, very minimal now compared to what it was. And nowadays the government are serving during this corona period, even now it is being continued, free ration. It was something unheard of on those days. So these are all the things which he wants us to ponder over in this particular chapter. And now we come to the 37th Siddharudha Swami. Now Ramdas, catching a train going still southward, reached Hubli at last. The idea of going to Hubli was put into his head by Brother Ramakrishna Rao of Bombay, who is a great bhakta of the famous saint of Hubli, Sri Siddharudha Swami. Ram took him there to obtain for him the darshan of this great sage. It was past midday when he reached the mutt of Sri Siddharudha, which is about 3 miles distant from the railway station. The mutt consists of 3 sets of buildings. The first one in the line was a solid block of granite, over which was erected a tall conical gopura. This temple was intended to serve as a repository of the remains of the Swami after he had entered Mahasamadhi. The other 2 were extensive buildings constructed in such a way as to leave a large square yard in the interior. Of these, the second one was the Dharamshala, wherein reside sannyasis, bhaktas, pilgrims. Facing the mutt, there were 2 beautiful tanks. On the other side of the tanks, there was a grove of trees yielding cool shade. The mutt was situated in very charming and healthy surroundings. Ramdas, entering the mutt, was, through the kindness of friends there, duly introduced to Sri Siddharudha, at whose feet he prostrated himself most reverently. Here he spent about 10 days most happily. In the mornings and evenings, there were readings and exposition of religious texts. Ramdas listened to, nay, drank in, the words of wisdom that fell from the lips of the learned sage. Ram had so arranged matters for him that the Upatesha the Swami gave during those days happened to be just what would lead him further in his spiritual progress. At other times, he would wander about in the fields behind the mutt and remain mostly in the tomb of or samadhi of the late Kabir Das, the great Muslim saint of that place. Ramdas was clearly able to experience a spiritual atmosphere charged with peace and calmness inside the mutt and Dharamshala, especially at the time of the presence of the great Swami. Swami Siddharudha was a great yogi of an advanced age. He was kind, affable, hospitable, and full of tranquility. Now news reached Bangalore, that Ramdas was staying at the mutt at Hubli. His former wife, but present mother, as all women are mothers to Ramdas now, and his child came there to fetch him. Sri Siddhartha Swami was appealed to by them in the matter, and the kind-hearted saint advised him to go with them to Mangalore. Ramdas submitted to the order, feeling that it came from Ram himself. Ram always means well, and he does everything for the best. The mother, that is Ramdas's former wife, proposed to him to return to samsara, to which he replied a very, very important message. O mother, it is all the work of Ram. Ram alone has freed Ramdas from the bonds of samsaric life, and he resides now at Ram's holy feet. He is now the slave of Ram, and prays to him always to keep him as such. To trust and acknowledge his supreme power of protection over all, and believe that he alone is the doer of all actions and possessor of all things, is the only way to be rid of the miseries of life. He alone is the doer of all actions and possessor of all things. Therefore, O Mother, throw off your burden of cares and anxieties, and approaching the divine feet of Ram, live there always in peace and happiness. This is all poor Ramdas can ask you to do. Now, under the kind care and escort of the mother, he started by train, and reaching Marmugova, embarked upon a steamboat which took them in due course to Mangalore. As the party came up to the bandar, Ramdas, as bid by Ram, walking in advance, directed his steps straight to Kadri Hills, where he remained for the night. Next day, by Ram's will again, he visited the house of brother Sitaram Rao, a brother by the old relation and a great bhakta of Ram. A few days later, he had the happiness of the darshan of his Gurudev, father by old relationship, who had given him the upadesh of the divine Rama Mantram. Now, this was in 1923, Ramdas stays by Ram's command in a cave called Panchapandava Cave on the Kadri Hill, and lives there a serene life on the Kadri Hill, and lives there a serene life, devoting his whole time in talking about, writing of, and meditating on that all-loving and glorious Ram. That is how the text ends. There are so many hints, clues in this last para. Can anybody share on this?
Swamiji, from the initial restless phase, before when he started on his journey, he is now become serene, calm, and peaceful, completely thinking of Ram.
Yeah.
Because he is now in Ram, with Ram.
The first chapter was telling about the stressful period through which Papa was passing, and then this last chapter gives how he has become serene, peaceful. Okay, that is one message. So if we also travel like him, not the way in which he has traveled, we also similarly undertake a mental yatra, and wherever possible, physical yatra also. With all the dimensions, not merely catching the train and going somewhere and coming back. With all the dimensions contained in these 37 chapters, Papa is indirectly assuring us that you will also be able to lead a serene life. Yes, that is the first point. Anything else?
Hari Om Swamiji. I am just quoting what you said long back. The 37 chapters tell us in one sentence how Papa Ramdas became from confused to clarity.
Confusion to clarity.
Quite right. Then, any other point?
Swamiji, Papa till the last was adhering to his vows, and he said to his wife, "You are my mother now. I cannot go back to that samsaric life again."
Correct. At the time of adopting sannyas, he took 3 vows. First one is, this life will be entirely consecrated to the meditation and service of Ram. Second one, all the ladies will be looked upon as mothers, and he will live only on alms procured by Bhiksha. These were the 3 vows he took. So in line with that, when his former wife approached him, he was able to tell in a very loving way, convincing way. Yes, then. What else?
Swamiji, then immediately former mother, that is Papa's mother.
Farmer wife.
Papa gave the permission immediately, as they say, to take sannyas, you have to have the permission of the wife. Is it so?
Not permission. When he started, his son-in-law wrote a book called Passage to Divinity. There he writes, God himself conspired to arrange for that day. 2 days they were away, and then on that day he left, leaving a letter, not only to her, but also to the person to look after them.
Hari Om Swamiji. Hari Om Swamiji.
Yes, Hari Om.
The same point, confusion to clarity, is also same message conveyed in Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna was confused to start with. And through the advice of Lord Krishna, he became clarity.
Correct. Yeah.
So there's a parallelism between IPG and Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah. From the Vishada Yoga to the Samatya Yoga, Samarpana Yoga.
Swamiji, from 3rd chapter to last chapter, 100% positivity. There's no negative at all on Papa. 100% positivity. Everything is positive. Everything is positive. And we can.
Yes.
Swamiji, from this instance, we also came to know Papa has surrendered continuously. He even told his wife that don't be anxious about anything and to surrender to Ram. So he has constantly been able to surrender, which we need to learn.
He elaborately explained about surrender. He is the slave of Ram. That means the sense of individuality does not function independently. As Ram says, he acts. That was beautifully brought out by his message to her. And he is telling her, after this 9 to 10 months of yatra, where he was relying only on Ram, nothing else. So he says he is the great protector. And 2 things. The point we are trying to make. Before the first chapter, when Papa introduces Ram, he gives the attributes of Ram. Here in the last chapter, he again brings that. He is the doer of all actions, possessor of all things. Initially when he said, it was a statement rooted in him. Okay. Now when he says, it is rooted on experience, anubhava. Because before he started on this, before he introduced the word Ram, he made us know what the word Ram stands for. So Ram stands for the subtle and mysterious power pervading everywhere. And he said he is all in all, mysterious power that pervades and sustains the whole universe. Birthless and deathless is he. He is present in all things and in all creatures who only appear as separate entities due to their ever-changing forms. So here he says, he alone is the doer. His supreme power of protection over all, and believe that he alone is the doer of all actions and possessor of all things, is the only way to be rid of the miseries of life. This is the take-home message for all of us. Here he talks based upon a series of experiences under different varying situations. Somewhere he is received with love, somewhere he is not received with love. Somewhere he is mocked, somewhere, he is denied. You remember that Pondicherry police station? Everywhere, different types of experiences. Severest cold, he was not allowed to go into the temple. In certain places, he was allowed. So varying experience, not a prototype. To make us know that the situation may change, persons may change, objects may change, time may change, but he is there always.
And you are spontaneous in his actions and thoughts.
Spontaneous. Spontaneous because his surrender to him has become total. So the thinking, what is it called? He himself said, the imaginary faculty, the thinking faculty is not there in him.
God speaks to him.
Here also, Swamiji. Here also, when Siddhartha Swami asked him to go with his former wife, Papa feels that the feeling that it came from Ram himself. So he sees Ram, even everything he sees Ram only, Papa.
Yeah. So when the Swami asked him to go to Mangalore, he literally, in letter and spirit, went up to Mangalore. But the moment he got down at the station, he went straight to Kadri Hill.
He's very firm. He's very firm in his resolution.
Very firm. Yeah, very firm in his resolution. Very firm at the same time, not telling in so many words. The ego, if the ego is there, the ego will say that, because the ego is not there, the sense of agency is not there, and so it doesn't have to be. He has to keep up the resolve. That's all. We who are reading it, we are saying that he is sticking to his vows. He does not say so. If he says so, that means the sense of individuality asserts. That's also an important point. And then anything else?
Innocence and childlike.
Everything is childlike. Yeah. കേൾക്കത്താൻ വേണം, പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കാൻ അഴത്താൻ വേണം, കേട്ടാവൊന്നും கிடைக்காது. எந்த ஸ்திதியில் எத்தியிருக்கோம்னு நம்ம சொல்கிறோம் தான், அவர் சொல்கிறதில்லை. அவர் சொன்னால் அது சென்ஸ் ஆஃப் இண்டிவிஜுவாலிட்டி இஸ் இவாலுவேட்டிங். அதாக அந்த வித்தியாசம். ஆஸ் எ ரீடர் வி சே எதில் സിദ്ധാരൂഢ സ്വാമിയുടെ ഉപദേശ് Ram had so arranged matters for him that the Upadesh the Swami gave during those days happened to be just what would lead him further in his spiritual progress. According to us, he doesn't have to go anywhere, no? He has reached the top. But to him, he still feels, So God arranges everything for him. Yeah, that is also a point. In Tamil, there is a word, Katrathu kaimannalavu, kalladadu, ulagalavu. That they keep on thinking, Whatever we have learned is only handful. Whatever we have to learn is like this universe. So always a person, an evolved person feels it's only comma, not full stop. Something more. And then anything else? So on 27th December 1922, he left. And he says, now, this was in 1923. So the whole of 1923, probably 8 to 9 months, because there is a letter here. That was also written in 1923, somewhere in Gujarat, Katosan. There, he was I may, by Ram's will, remain here for about 10 days before going to Dwarka. This ashram is situated in a jungle, quite solitary, where I can perform Ram Bhajan with great pleasure. I am praying Ram to point out and lead me to a place where I can spend the remainder of my life in meditation of him, in uttering his sweet name. Both these words always appear. The charming music of the sound of the name has sustained me all along and will certainly fill me with his grace till the end. But what he intends to make of me is not known yet. My prostrations at the holy feet. Tomorrow is Sunday. So Monday onwards we will take up the heart pourings in the cave. After he came back to the cave, he has recorded whatever that welled up in his mind. At times, we will get bewildered. Why this? At times, he will say, oh Ramdas, you are nothing. Why this? This question was answered by Mataji. Somebody asked this question to Puja Mataji. Why the heart pouring keeps on shifting from stand to stand? At times, he talks from Ram's level, at times from Ramdas's level, at times when a different entity level watching both. So, why it is so? So first we will read Mataji's.
Swamiji? Does this happen in every sadhaka's life?
Sadhaka's life, yes. But here, Papa, as far as we are concerned, from whatever we have read, understood, Papa has reached the goal. So in 1923, if he has reached the goal, why did he write like this?
The pairs of opposites are very well depicted by Papa in the cave. Namely, sweetness, bitterness, happiness, misery, light, darkness, love, hate, heat, cold, good, evil, truth, untruth, wisdom, ignorance, heaven, hell, and God illusion. Very nicely he has put up. All in thee.
Very nice.
Swamiji, a few days ago you were reading from some book about Krishna, about Lord Krishna. About Swamiji, which book was that? I thought
Sri Krishna Leela. Sri Krishna Leela by Vanamali.
Vanamali. Okay, thank you, Swamiji. Hari Om.
So here, in one of the talks, Mataji tries to draw our attention on this seemingly different stance. In the evening, Sri Shabai referred to beloved Papa's heart pourings while staying in the Kadri caves, which formed a separate chapter titled In the Cave at the end of In Quest of God. Shabai asked Mataji why in some places Papa appeared exuberant and spoke of nearness of God and the bliss of his presence, while in some other places Papa's outpouring seemed to be of despair when he addressed himself in scathing terms. Mataji, this is a phase all sadhakas pass through. When they become conscious of God in them and around them, they are exuberant. There are also times when that consciousness is temporarily lost and they become desperate while in that state. So Mataji had clarified it, no? Temporarily lost.
Swamiji, you told one word, Puriyale, Swamiji.
Anything?
You told the word.
One word you told Puriyale.
Acha. The heart pouring explain பண்றத ஓரோ டைமில் ஓரோ மாதிரி இருக்கிற மாதிரி நமக்கு தோணும். For example, O Ram, keep thy slave always absorbed in thee. O Ram, make Ramdas mad of thee. O Ram, purify the mind of thy slave. Let him not see evil anywhere. Let him not see faults in others, but only good. We have only seen in all these 37 chapters that he has only seen good in others, no? O Ramdas, you are in Ram and out of him. O Ram, destroy Ramdas's desires. Crush them out of him. Another then it is, you are nothing, Ramdas. You have no worth, Ramdas. If any good comes to you, it is all Ram's. You are only a piece of stinking clay. Away with your vanity. We have never heard anything Papa talking in the way, no? Papa himself write this. Ramdas, you are now mad. Ramdas, you are free. Nothing binds you. O Ram, thy slave Ramdas is thine completely. O Ram, thy slave cries to thee repeatedly to make him mad of thee. Start Ramdas on his mission, O Ram. Make Ramdas mad of thee. You are not weak, Ramdas. You are all powerful. Ram has infused into you his divine effulgence. Again, O Ramdas, rise to the very height of renunciation, and there sit on its crest and view the transient nature of the whole show around you. O Ram, it is thou that weepest in sorrows of the world. It is thou that smilest in the happiness of the world. Still, Thou art above all happiness and above all. O Ram, O love, O Ram, envelop everything in the soft glare of thy guidance. Whatever thou doest, Ram, thou doest for the best. Ramdas is entirely thine. O Ramdas, you have nothing in the world to call your own. All belong to Ram, including yourself. Ramdas, all praise, all honor, all respect is for Ram. Ram is without. Ramdas, don't be proud. Consider that none is inferior to you in the world. O Ram, save thy child. Rise, rise, O Ramdas, fly above all. O Ramdas, become one with the greenness of the leaves. O Ram, thou art kindness. Ramdas, in spite of Ram's unbounded grace upon you, you are still weak. Ramdas, you are still small and insignificant, full of actions, full of defects. Cry, cry, weep, weep, O Ramdas. Cry and weep. Take off, O Ram. All is egoism. So like that, we find seemingly, paradoxical. But later on, we will be able to find out. Mataji gives a general opinion. But we take it like this. When we remove the word Ramdas, and we put our name in it, then he tries to make us understand what are the weaknesses still persisting in us. What are the things, because Ram is within us, what are the things that we should be proud of, we should own, we should become aware of. At the moment we are not aware of. When we are in a distressed state, when we read this, we get charged. At the same time, if we think we have progressed fast in spiritual life, Papa gives a strong hit on our head. Whenever the ego, it is natural, when we are associated with the spiritually evolved people, when we read so many things, when we have mastered so many scriptures, unknowingly the vanity will come without our knowledge. In a subconscious stage, this will be there. I know this. So at that time, there should be a kick and knock, So we take it that when we go through this heartpouring, and when we substitute our name in the place of Ramdas, we find, every time we should be the first pouring, for example. O Ram, what thy slave Ramdas should do or should not do must be determined by thee alone. During all these 37 chapters, we have never seen everything to Ram and Ram only. But here you find he is helpless. Make him resign all to thee. Let him live, drink, sleep, move, sit, stand, talk, think, look, hear, smell, touch, do everything in thy name and for thy sake only. O Ram, O Divine Mother, Ramdas is thine, totally, completely, heart, soul, body, mind, everything. So when we read this, normally the tendency is when we go to the puja room, when we go to a Mahatma's place, ashram, when we go to a temple or spiritual, God is irrelevant, to be blunt. in order that that is removed once and for all. Whatever activities we do, everything has been lined here. Eating, drinking, sleeping, moving, sitting, standing, talking, thinking, looking, hearing, smelling, touching, everything, So that means there is no boundary, divide between spiritual and worldly. Only through this expression, it becomes clearer to us. So like that, we take it, we don't know whether that, anyway, that is how Papa prompts from within. The heart pourings serve us to know where we are, which are the areas where we have to improve, where we should concentrate, what should be our attitude, and how to remove even the traces of vanity from us. Every time we should know that it is spiritual journey is only comma. Never it is a full stop, because so long as the sense of individuality exists in the body, mind, and complex, imperfections will be there. It is natural. The body has to have, body ejects so many things. Mind also, as long as we have got the BMI equipment, so long as we engage in the so-called sense of individuality, imperfections will be there. Imperfections not in the way which we all have, it will be the minutest, minimum. Because the body is there now. It is subject to disorder. It needs 3 times food, or 2 times food, or 1 time food. It needs the air. It needs water. So any imbalance in this will have its own reaction on the body. So at the grosser level, this will all be there. Mahatma Gandhi used to say, 100% perfection may not be possible in the embodied self. We would have raised it to any extent. Now, when we went through these 37 chapters, we could find that even the body could stand so many rigors. It had a wonderful capacity to endure the adverse circumstances, the extreme climatic condition. And you all remember in the jams, in the platform, where he smelled the urine. And also, what does he say? So even there, none of the things which is there in the outpourings, it has not been expressed. Honestly, spontaneously, he felt it positive. So we were wondering, why again? Mataji clarified it to some extent that it is likely that temporarily we may feel that we have lost. We have not lost. Temporarily, that is the nature of the sense of individuality. When we go deeper and deeper into it, when once having got, why should we feel that temporarily we have lost it? Because that is the limitation of the body. So long as we have got this limitation, we have to be alert. In Papa's case, he need not be alert at all, because he is established in it. Through these 30, 34, 35 episodes, we have found that. Nowhere is he shaken, nowhere is he frustrated, nowhere is he distressed, nowhere is he stressed, nowhere is he clueless, nowhere is he anxious. So then why? So then we understand. We put two and two together. And Mataji says, whenever they identify themselves totally with that reality, they are exuberant. Whenever they feel temporarily lost, They express like this. So then that means the nature of the body. So we try to go through with that background. We try to put ourselves. Then two advantages are there. One is gunaropanam. That is, wherever he says, O Ramdas, it's a wonderful quotation. You are in Ram, out of him. You are everywhere along with him. He is everywhere along with you. He cannot leave you, you cannot leave him. He is tied to you, you are tied to him. You are in his custody, he is in your custody. He cannot do without you, you cannot do without him. He lives in you, you live in him. Still, you are his slave, he is your protector. O Ram, thou art two, but thou art one. The lover and the loved in fast embrace become one. Two become one. One remains everlasting, infinite, eternal. Love, O Ram, rave on, mind charged with the madness of Ram's love. So we feel, having given us a wonderful feast by providing us these 37 chapters with an introductory article of who Ram is. Papa is now leading a serene life, peaceful life. But at the same time, he has recorded this so that we devotees, spiritual aspirants, when we go through it intensely, we are suddenly reminded of what is in store in us, and we try to improve.
What is the meaning of Gunaropana?
Gunarohana, what is the meaning?
Gunaropana. Somebody would not have reached that stage. But a Mahatma comes, in front of everybody, says, he is a good person. He feels guilty inside, But now, in front of everybody, he has been declared. So he has to toe in line of becoming a genuine good person. Two instances come to us. Interesting. One is when Gandhiji was asked before he dropped the body, who will talk your language after you are gone? So spontaneously he said, Panditji, Somebody informed this to Panditji. Panditji rushed up to him. What are you talking, Babuji? Where are you? Where am I? I am full of imperfections. I have lot of weaknesses. He repeated that word. At that time, so then the struggle was there in him. How am I to live up to Panditji's evaluation? And those who have been living in that period will know very well that for the 17 years, he was the Prime Minister of India. Everybody loved him. And the last will he had mentioned that after my cremation, the ashes should be distributed from the aircraft in all places, so that for all the love the Indians have been giving to me, I have not been able to pay back. At least I will become the dust of their feet. We all remember the May 27th, 1964. We were working at that time in Chennai. How everything became a standstill the moment we came to know that Panditji is no more. So we were remembering Bapuji's words. Another one is, we remember when during our Madras days, we were closely associating with Chinmaya Mission activities. So sometime during 65, 66 or somewhere, 67 I think, the then office bearers thought that mission should have a center. They had no center at that time. Whenever Swamiji comes and we arrange for the Gita Jnana Yajna, it will be in some Maidan. And we all join once or twice in a month in some place, common place. There will be hardly 40, 50, 60 people, that's all. When he comes, it will be 2,000, 3,000 people. So when the office bearers decided, they raised some fund through some benefit performance. Then when requested Swamiji to come to this, they bought a piece of land, and they requested Swamiji to lay the foundation stone. So when they came, they told Swamiji, we don't have any funds. He said, don't worry. So there's a big meeting. We all attended that meeting. Big meeting, very big meeting. So after explaining about the need to have a permanent center, Swamiji said, now we will do some business. The land with which the foundation stone is laid, he said, now this is put to action. The highest bidder will get this. So there was a pause, nobody uttered anything, and somebody said 75 rupees, 100 rupees. Like that it was going. Swamiji was keenly watching. You know, in 60s, the rupee value was much, much more than what nobody can conceive now. To give you some idea, we will say in 68, 69, when we went to Delhi, the train fare was 52 rupees from Calicut to Delhi. You can just imagine the rupee value. So he was watching 100, 125, 150, 130. Suddenly, Swamiji waited for half an hour. So the leather factory is there. One proprietor was sitting there. In front of everybody, he has declared, the leather king of Madras, something to praise him. The leather king of Madras will take it for 10,000 won. Where is 125, 150, 170? And this man immediately got up, his upper cloth he tied up, gave us Ashtanga Pranam. Okay, Swami. Some motivation is needed. Then Swamiji said, this is the only way I can do it, because they need money. Then they said, yes, we should have started from, say, 5,000, 6,000. We never knew Swamiji all these tricks. That's why he said, we will do some business. So Gunaropanam means, he is there, he is capable, he is a good man, a charitable person. By himself, it is not initiated. To touch and kindle the goodness in him, the charitable nature in him, he immediately said, this Gunaropanam was done. And immediately he paid his rich dividends. So, okay, 5:10 now. So tomorrow is Sunday. Day after tomorrow we will try with these outpourings. In between, if anybody has got any other, I think if you remember right, we are on the second reading now. Probably after a month or two, we may again take up the third reading. Every in our workaday life, we don't want a theory which is not workable, which is not practical. We want that which can be tried in our workaday life. So that we will try. You lost your network connection, trying to reconnect.
You can speak.
It will go there.
Yes.
So we will all come back on Monday with that background. And if any new thought has come up in your mind as prompted by him, please share with us. Because this 1 year, we have got still more 5, 6, go deeper and deeper and deeper into the various facets of this particular book, In Quest of God. It is not a book. It is a manual. It's a manual for our daily life. So probably somebody can take the lead in thinking, what are the things that will be helpful in our day-to-day life, family life, professional life, social life. These are the three tires through which we expose ourselves daily. So in these three venues, what are the values, what are the things that will help us? So out of these 37 chapters, if we leave 2 or 3, 34, minimum 34 or 33 chapters will give us these tools. And we keep on accumulating this in our bag, memory bag. So now we will try to take one by one and see how it can be used for our workaday life. The challenges to be met with, the commitments to be honored, and the duty to be performed. And the challenges mean from unknown quarter we get challenges. For no fault of us we get challenges. Our mind will justify our stand, but we will not be, but it will happen. We have to meet the challenge. So how do we handle? How do we handle? With this perspective, we should approach in quest of God again and see to what extent we have been able to unearth the still more to be explored treasure. Is that clear? I don't know. Anyway, we'll meet one day after tomorrow. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai